Hey guys, on today's episode, I am super excited because we have a female powerhouse with us. We have Mary Fusillo, who has started her own company that involves mentoring women and travel. And I'm super, super excited to hear all about how she started this company and how this is helping empower people just around the globe. I am super, super excited to have her. So, welcome to another episode of Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness. I am your host, Melissa Oatman from melissaoatman.com. Mary, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about my company.
I'm super excited too because I love, love, love travel. I think everyone should get to travel. I'm a teacher by day, as my audience members know, and I've taken many students on travel abroad programs. So I think that that is one of the most educational things you can do is just to get out and travel. So I'm super excited to hear about you. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you started this company.
Okay, well, I am actually have spent the last 32 years in the healthcare sphere. From a basically, I'm a registered nurse. I spent 10 years climbing the ladder in nursing. I had twins, and I decided that I wanted to do something different. And so I went into the fertility world. I was a manager of a clinic, I did consulting. And then about 15 years ago, I started my own business, kind of a consulting business in the fertility field. So I've been doing that for the last 15 years, helping people have babies. I've had over 3,000 babies born through me helping people, which is a lot of babies. I love Christmas and holidays when I get cards with people's pictures. And actually, yesterday, I ended up getting a picture of somebody they sent me that my child is graduating from high school. And I was like, oh my gosh. It was like yesterday that I remembered helping them have the baby. So, but I also came to the point where when my children went to college, I kind of went, okay, well, I'm not a little done with the baby sphere thing now. And what else can I do? And I was kind of lost. How do you transition from having a business or being a executive or even a teacher or a nurse or whatever into the next phase of your life when you're kind of an empty nester? And I saw so many women that were kind of lost and like, what do I do now? And how do I find a hobby and whatever? So that thought was percolating in my mind when I came upon some information about 2.5, 3 years ago about digital nomads. And I was like, I'd never heard of it at the time. And it was people who go away and they work their business from another location. And I thought that's what I need because I was like, I need to go somewhere else. So I ended up on a trip going to Montevideo, Uruguay, which I mean, people are like, what? Montevideo? Actually, Montevideo was amazing. And I loved it. And right on the ocean, and I just had a great experience there. And I thought, how do I package this and tell other people about it? Not everybody can go away for 6 weeks and kind of reboot their life. So over the course of like the next couple of months, I ended up going on another trip, a shorter one, to another hot spot in the world, Belgrade, Serbia, which is actually a cool place too. It's right on the Danube. So you had these, the river boats would go by and it had a lot of history to it. It's so many different cultures have been through there. We actually had some great wine. And I met another woman and I had the kind of the same idea. She's from a different generation. She's in her 20s, and I was at the tail end of the baby boomers. But we ended up having this synergy about creating a company that helped people bridge these differences in their lives. What do I want to do? Maybe I'm now working from home. Of course, the pandemic showed up in the middle of our plans, and so we had to kind of kick the can down the road, and we actually put everything together and launched February 15th. And our first trip is coming up in July, and it's to San Miguel de Allende, a UNESCO World Heritage Center. Our next one is in Paros, Greece, a Greek island. And then the third one for this year is in Malta. And then next year we have a whole itinerary. So we've launched, we're ready to go, and we're so excited about it.
I love that. I love that you're doing this. And we were chatting a little bit beforehand. We got on here, and you were talking about how your retreats are a little bit different because most retreats, you go there and they have you scheduled from the time you get up in the morning until the time you go to bed at night. You're just doing all of these things, and you don't really have time to relax and unwind and do the things you love to do when you travel. And your company's a little different. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I love to travel. And as I have gotten a little more mature, I'm really not into a tent or a yurt. I like to stay in nice places. And I said, if you're going to do a recalibration and a re energizing of your life, you need to be in a great location. So, our premise is that we're going to have small groups in luxury locations, luxury villas. And like the first one in San Miguel is an 11 bedroom, 11 bath. Villa with swimming pool, yoga studio, beautiful grounds. And so the goal is that you would get up, you have a chef prepared breakfast. Maybe you want to do some yoga by the pool. We have a yoga instructor coming, and then you might have an hour, hour and a half of our mentoring program where we're talking through some of the issues. Every day we'll kind of theme. Maybe it's lunchtime. Maybe you want to lay by the pool. Maybe you just want to take a siesta. Then the afternoons, some afternoons we're going to have more mentoring for maybe an hour or so. But other afternoons we may go into town to go to there's a giant place called the uh, Fabrica La Aurora, which is over 30 art galleries. And San Miguel is like an art capital in Mexico. And so we'll go there, and that will be part of the whole process of kind of getting out of yourself. So the goal is that you'll have all these workshops, but you'll also get to have a vacation. And that's the point. Vacation, learning. The other cool thing about us is the month before the trip, we have a mentoring program. So a month before you receive your packet, you'll have a journal. It'll have some prompts, and every week we'll kind of discuss it. People will have their own like Slack channel that they can go to, and they'll get to know all the other participants. So that's kind of the goal is that you will have the building blocks to kind of recreate or recalibrate or reimagine your passion in your life.
I love that. That is so awesome. And I have to say, I know there's probably some women out there listening who think to themselves, I would love to do something like that, but I'm a little bit afraid. I'm afraid to travel, or I'm afraid to be with people I don't know. And what would you say to anyone out there listening who might have that fear? Because I know that you just kind of took a chance and traveled when you read about the company that did the nomad travelers. So that was kind of like a big jump outside of your comfort zone, I'm sure. So what would you say to people who might be thinking, I'd love to do that, but I don't know that I could?
Well, I always thought of myself as a very adventurous person. I'm not the kind that would ever do bungee jumping, but I'm an adventurous person. But I will say before my first trip in 2018 to Montevideo, the month before I was like, I can't do this. Oh, what am I thinking? I'm crazy. Who does this? Who goes to Uruguay, And I remember sitting in the departure lounge at LAX, and I had just downed 2 glasses of Merlot, and I went, oh, I can't do this. I can't get on the plane. And I did. And I was so nervous that I would not become part of the group, or I'd spend 6 weeks alone. Although I had craved this, I want to be alone kind of thing. The actuality of 6 weeks being alone was like, oh no. But I ended up in this group, and the whole thing is everyone is traveling. So what I want to bring to Beyond the Nest trips is we want the same thing. You will know these people beforehand. When we all are in like different Facebook groups or whatever, and those people, even though they're your Facebook friend, even though you may have never met them, but you may have, interacted with them in a special group you're in. And that's the same kind of premise that we're doing. You're going to know these people when you get there. You may not have met them in the flesh, but you will know them. And that's the point. Most of our people that are coming solo. People are bringing a friend too. Some people can do the retreat, and they can bring a friend that just wants to hang out and lay in the sun. Okay. So we do have that option to bring a friend, and they say, I don't need that. I just want to lay in the sun or go shopping. That's great too.
Oh, I like that. I love that. That's awesome too. And, I just want to say that part of self care is just honoring that adventurous side, and exploring. And I think travel is such a great way to do that. For me, that's like my number one thing is like, if you could do anything, I'm like, travel. I want to travel. I travel everywhere. And I remember I have twins as well, and I took them on my last trip with us to Europe. We did a European tour, and I really I loved seeing them through their eyes, seeing things that I've seen already, but them seeing it for the first time, like the Eiffel Tower, and they're like, oh, this is the Eiffel Tower. And it was really cool to get to see that. But then as soon as we got home, they're like, we want to go back. We want to go on another trip. We want to, it's like, like once you start traveling, it's like you get bit by that travel bug and like, I need to keep doing this. I need to keep doing this. But I love that you're adding the mentoring and the other components to it, because you're right. There's so many women who kind of, I feel my age too. My kids are 19 now, and I'm in this space where I'm trying to redefine who I am, because being a teacher, I'm like, yeah, this is not it's not it for me for the rest of my life. I don't want to like be in this little corner here of this is what I've done my whole life and this is where I'm going to stay. I want to branch out, and so that's why I started the podcast and helping others and healing and all of that was for the same reason. So if there's anyone out there listening who feels like I'm too old, it's too late, what do you have to say to that?
It's never too late. I will say that first, I want to tell you, okay, my twins are 22. And sometimes this travel thing backfires on you because my daughter, who just graduated from college 4 weeks ago, she's going to graduate school in London. And, she probably doesn't want to ever come back. So that's what happens when you have a kid who has the travel bug. Okay. And so, but on the other hand, I had a lot of pushback from my friends that I had been friends with for years and years, especially my mommy friends. Your mommy friends that you met with pre-K, three, and now they're still your friends, and everyone's kids are gone, but they're still your friends. Oh, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to what's the deal? Oh, and then one friend even said, well, I would never do that. I know what I'm doing. And I was really kind of hurt and kind of crushed, right? Until then I had other people tell me, I think that's the coolest idea. And that, they said some people, they look at kind of a retirement as like okay, well, I'm going to hang out, I'm going to play golf. I tried golf. It didn't work for me. And so now I'm on to the next thing. And to me, being able to help other people find that passion will also help me help increase mine about this. Because when I went into fertility, which I've done for 22 years, I did it because I had had fertility treatment to have my twins, and I wanted to help other people become a family. And so now that I have a family, I want other people to also be able to find their passion in life past motherhood or past your career.
I love that. That is so important because I think so many of us, I can attest to this, when you are a mom, you get kind of lost. You lose yourself. It's like, who am I besides a mom and a teacher and this, or, who am I really? And I think so many of us, once we're in this system where we get out of school, we get married, we have kids, we do whatever, we we never have really discovered who we truly are. And I feel like a lot of people don't even do that until we get to this point in our life where all of a sudden the kids are gone and you're like, now what? Okay, what do I do now? And now's the perfect time to really tap in and say, okay, who am I and what do I want out of life?
Well, I will say when my kids were about were seniors in high school, I was filled with dread. I had this big career. I traveled, for my business. I mean, I thought that my whole identity was being a mom, and the career was secondary. I mean, I was a mom first. And one of the reasons I started my own business 15 years ago was so that I could be more mom-like. Like I could go to the soccer games, or I could go to the play or whatever. And I managed to do that, but I also was petrified that they would be gone and they would be launched to their lives. And I'd be like, okay, so what about the rest of my life? And so, but as you know, when they go away, it's like, oh, within like 4 weeks, you're like, this is great. And so I kind of circumvented that. I didn't have it. And so, but now that they're launched, I feel like, okay, I did my job. I'm sure you'll feel that same way. Did it. We did a good job. I'm going to get an A on that. Okay. And so they're great kids. They're ready to have their lives. So what about the rest of my life? Because I think people that spend the whole rest of their lives, oh, she was a great mom, a great grandmother, but that's all they have. And I think that life needs more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to enjoy your life, and when you get up every day, you should get up and look forward to what your day is going to bring. And I think that if it's dependent on, well, because I'm a mom or I'm a grandma, I mean, it's great that we have that role, but also I think we need to have an identity that's outside of I'm a mom or I'm a grandma or I'm this or I'm that. Who are we really truly? And so when the women come to you in these programs on your retreat, is that one of the things you work on is identity and who they really truly want to be? Is that one of the topics?
Yes. Okay, so I'll just give you a little brief idea of what some like, remember we're going to have all this pre-mentoring stuff where you're, because you don't need to just jump in when you show up the first day and you're like, oh my gosh, here I am. You will have kind of eased into it by thinking about it for the whole month beforehand. But like, for instance, the first day, the topic is who am I and where am I going? And you will have had readings and kind of some discussion and some journaling about that previously. But now we're going to try to solidify who are you? Yes, you're a mom. Or you're not a mom, but you're a work person and you have your, furry kids. We're trying to drill down into who you are and where you're going. The next day is what's driving your wheel? What is your true passion? Okay. So when we think about that, I think we all kind of want to go, oh, I'm passionate about helping animals, or I'm passionate about teaching young people, or I'm passionate about fertility. But if when you dig down, what is it that you're most passionate about? Okay. And it cannot be like, oh, I want to save the world or clean energy or whatever. For me, I found out that my passion was I wanted to find out what I was best at being of service. So, what am I best at being of service? And that doesn't mean like, okay, I help people have babies and now I want to help them grow, but what do I find out? And then the next day, we're like, how do you shift gears? Okay, how do you go from this, like, I'm an attorney and a mom, or I was a stay at home mom and I had like a little part time job? How do I shift gears into the next life? And then what's my motivation for this? Because it's difficult. I went to Montevideo 2.5 years ago, and I'm just now getting to the part where I'm realizing what I found in Montevideo, what I experienced. So it's not like, okay, I'm going to leave the workshop in Greece or in Mexico, and I'm going to go home and I'm going to change everything. It takes a while, and so to understand what keeps you motivated, because at times I'm like, I think I'm just going to go learn to play bridge instead of starting a new company.
Yeah. I love all of those topics, and I read somewhere someone said that if you truly want to find your purpose in life, how can just be of service? And when you're of service, it naturally comes to you. So I love that you have that component in there of like, how do I best serve? Because I think that when you really get down to the heart of like that question, that's when truly your purpose kind of comes to you.
Exactly. And this is kind of a bizarre thing, but we've all been Netflixed out over the last year and a half. Okay. I never watched Netflix before because I was too busy, but now they're, for the last 15 months, there's been like, what else are we going to do? Right. And you can only read so much or whatever. And after a hard day, teaching for me, my business, you kind of just want to have some downtime for an hour. Well, I finally started watching Call the Midwife, which is
Oh, I
that.
just started watching that too.
Oh, I have. Okay, so I'm on season 3 and I literally have tears every night. And what got me was I saw that service all the time without it being like I'm helping you. It was kind of that was their whole aura. So anyway, I'm getting so much out of it just because of that aura of service. And it doesn't have to be it's hard to explain sometimes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're sacrificing. It means that service brings you joy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people get that wrong. They think when they think of service and being of service to others, it means you have to give things away for free or do things for
Mhm.
free. It doesn't mean that. I mean, it can mean that, but for a lot of people, what you end up doing for a living is being of service to others. Like what you were doing was being of service to others and helping women being able to start their families. And people who are out there and doing healing work, they charge for it. It's not that you have to do things for free. It's just that you understand, well, what we talk about in education is what is my why? What is my why? Like why am I a teacher? Why am I a healer? Why do I do this? Why do I do that? Because if you don't really know why you're doing it, it sort of
Mm.
is, your purpose there. It's like what am I doing? It's like I'm just here. If you know and really understand your why, I got into teaching because I wanted to make the material meaningful for students. I wanted them to appreciate cultures and understand that learning new languages can be fun and can open doors and new opportunities for people. That's your why. And then that kind of fuels how you operate every single day of your life. And same thing with healing. It's like I got into healing because I want others to know that you can feel better. You can break free of all of the emotional burdens you carry around. It can get better. So when you really dig in and know, like, what is your why? Why do you serve? That really, like, that purpose becomes very, very clear. And if you can't say a why, like if your why is I want to make money, then that's not, you're not serving a purpose. So I think a lot of people really need to start looking at that, like, what is my why? And so I love that you guys have that component in there of looking at how you serve. Because when you start to look at that, it's like, okay, am I really serving people, or what am I doing? Or is that really making me happy? I think all of those things come out when you dig deeper and ask yourself those questions. So I love that.
And exactly, you just made it so succinct, because that's exactly what the thing that happened to me in Uruguay was. That and I have built it as I kind of got the I have enough. Okay, so that meant I had enough prestige, and I had enough money, and I had enough kudos, and I had and I'd done all that. But what else was there? I didn't want to wake up. I mean, who knows how long anyone lives, especially after we've gone through COVID. But both my grandmothers lived to be late 90s. Okay. And they were like with the program until they were in their late 90s. And I thought, okay, well, if that could be me, because I'm healthy and I have those same genes, what am I going to do with this next 35, 40 years that's meaningful, that brings me joy? And because when I started realizing that my business was my first business, okay, now it had become rote. I still enjoyed helping the people, but all the mechanics of it made me really unhappy. And so it's like, do you keep doing that? And I would talk to attorneys who were like, I'm living for the day that I can, go either go out on my own or quit my partnership, but I'm tied by the money. And so I love that. I wrote it down. What is my why? Because that's exactly what it was. What is my why am I doing this other than, money? And you can make money, but I think you still need to have a second motivation for, I mean, we all need money. Okay. It's like we have to have money to pay for the rent, to pay for food or whatever. But why do we do that? You can decide you want to be a hedge fund manager and hate every minute, or you can be a social worker and be happy or unhappy. Who knows?
Yeah. And, that's the thing. I've told my audience members this a lot. I had my first job was as a finance manager, and I hated every minute of it. It was just the worst. And then I worked at that business for like a year, and it felt like 20 years. And then I started teaching, and I'm going on my 15th year next year.
Wow.
Feels like 2 or 3 years. It's gone by so fast. And I think that part of that is it's not like every day is rainbows and sunshine with school. It's not, for sure, especially this year with COVID and everything doing remote. But I know my why. I know why I'm doing it. I know what motivates me to get up and do it every day is the kids. Like, I love the kids, and you build those relationships with that. And that's, I think, what is missing for some people. And a lot of people will stay stuck in careers because, like, I've done it for so long, I've been here for so long. And I understand that because, we all have to retire someday. But my point would be, okay, we're never guaranteed any amount of time on this earth. And do you want to spend the next 20 years or the next 10 years or whatever till you can retire miserable and hating your job and dreading getting up every morning? Or do you want to, like, figure out what would make you happy and go after that?
Exactly. And I love the poet Mary Oliver, who died a couple years ago, and her famous line, and I'm just paraphrasing it, is, what are you going to do with your one wild, wonderful life? And I think about that all the time. And it's like, we all, especially, I mean, we have to admit, we're not we're not just making it as a sustenance farmer somewhere in South America that's living off the land. And I mean, we live in, United States, or, a Western country. We have a lot more opportunities for our lives. So being said, what are we going to do with that one wonderful life? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you do anything crazy. It just means that you should have love and passion for what you're doing. And is it of service? And that doesn't mean service to someone else per se 100%. It can be service to yourself. Like, how am I going to take care of myself so that I can meet my highest and best goals in life?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, the thing is, we didn't come here to be broke and to be unhappy. And, many of us have fallen into that pattern because it's, growing up, we've learned I have to work hard for my money. I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. And I always say, like, a lot of this is about unlearning all of the conditions that have been placed on us to realize, like if you don't want to get married, if you grow up and you're like, I don't want a traditional marriage, I don't want to, you don't have to. I mean, we've got to stop telling people you have to live your life this way. You have to do what makes you happy. And, many people start off in life getting kind of backed into a corner because they get told at 18 they have to find a career, which is ridiculous.
Exactly.
And they pick the wrong one and then they get stuck there. And so then they get stuck in this, I don't love my life. I get up every day, it's the same thing over and over again. I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel. And I just want people to know you don't have to stay stuck like that. Like you can get out of that. And there are resources, and like your program is a great resource for anyone who's like, I need to figure this out. I need to get out of this. So I love that you're offering that for people. I think it's a great opportunity.
I hope so, because I remember I was actually a journalist when I got out of college, and at the point in time where I was a journalist, it did not pay enough to support you. Okay, especially a woman in journalism in the 1980s. I actually ended up going to nursing school because there was a need for nursing, and it's kind of like they used to tell women, be a nurse or be a teacher, you'll always have something to fall back on. And I did it as a way to say, okay, well, if this journalism thing doesn't work out, I'll be a nurse. Well, here I am 32 years later, I'm a nurse. But I will say I I was not meant for hospital nursing. I wasn't I was good at it, but I didn't love it. I would literally cry every day. I was an ICU nurse. I became director of critical care at a hospital. I had done ER. I did all that kind of stuff, but I was good at it. I took care of people very well. People would think I was a wonderful nurse, but inside I didn't like it. And it sounds bad if you say, I didn't like being a nurse. Well, you didn't like people. It wasn't the people. It wasn't for me. I didn't like the structure of nursing. I didn't like 6:45 in the morning to 7:15 at night, every other weekend. I didn't like the structure of nursing. I didn't like the fact that there was no creativity in it. Okay. So that was one thing that I struggled with for years, about how I felt so bad about myself because I didn't love being a nurse. Okay. So I ended up loving infertility because it wasn't the same. It was much more freelancing and much more, every person had a different story versus being in an ICU with somebody in a coma and you have these tasks to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah. So I still felt like I'm abandoning my cause in life, being a nurse, helping people, because I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to, because it made me unhappy. When I got to fertility, it made me happy because I got to see the fruits of my labor, literally sometimes when people would have babies.
Yeah. And that I can totally see why that would, the difference in those two areas, why that would, um, well, you knew your why, your
Yeah,
why.
it was a tough one, and that's why I found your stuff kind of so interesting. Is like, it was very tough to admit to myself that I didn't like it. Okay, and because you feel like, ugh, it's like, I'm sure you hear teachers that say, "Oh, I don't want to be a teacher anymore because of the administration or how many kids are in the classroom, whatever." But deep down inside, they're like, "It's not my passion, and I don't want to admit it to anybody because it sounds kind of like, oh, you didn't like being a nurse." No, I didn't like being a nurse.
Now, there's a lot of teachers out there, especially with this year, who I've heard of teachers who just quit mid-year because everything, it, COVID actually highlighted, I think, everything that's wrong with education right now, and the need for education to be completely revamped. I think it brought that to light. And there's a lot of really awesome people out there in education, but just to point out, it's very much a job that people will say thank you in one breath and turn around and criticize you in another. And I'm sure nursing is like that too. And they have like the teacher appreciation, and like we got an ice cream, or we get, you know what I mean? It's like, thank you so much, you're an essential employee, but we're going to give you an ice cream to show you how much we appreciate you.
I so get it, because that was what it's the same with and now I've watched, because I haven't worked in a hospital for 22 years. Okay. So, I mean, like, two-thirds of my career has been out of the hospital. But that doesn't mean I don't keep up with it, and it's completely changed. But watching the kudos presented to nurses during COVID was good, because I really felt that the general population really felt like, oh wow, they are really part of the team, and they're very important, and they're, look at all the sacrifices they're making, just like it showcased teachers the same way. And I think it's, if there's anything positive for our two careers or our professions, it was that it did really show how much sacrifice goes into being in those two careers.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you don't go into teaching for the money, but at some point your why has to fuel you so much that you overcome all of the paperwork you have to do, the all of the things that the state and the admin makes you do that makes no sense. You have to, and I know that nursing is the same way, because I'm sure there's a lot of paperwork on your end that you have to fill out, and all of the things that the hoops you have to jump through. And it's, you have to love it enough to get
Right.
through all of that. And for a lot of people, they just simply say like, I can't. And I totally get that, because I still love teaching, but I'm also at the point where I see like, okay, I need to also transition into something else. And I just want to say, for people out there, it's perfectly okay to transition into something else in your later years. We change, our tastes change. Your actual taste buds, when you're younger, like there were things I didn't like, and as I'm getting older, I learned to appreciate things. So your lifestyle is going to be the same way. You're going to be attracted to other things as you get older, and your tastes in what you want to do in life are going to change, and that's okay. It seems really silly to think we want to do the same thing for 40 years in our lives, because that would get very old very quickly. So
And you know what? I had this a couple, I guess it's like over 10 years ago. I had a bookkeeper who was also a friend of mine at the time. And she she said something to me once that really was one of those things that people say to you and it sticks with you, and it wasn't a good thing. It wasn't like, oh, this wonderful idea she gave me. She basically said, because I was like, at the time I was still kind of, oh, this is, having your own business is very stressful, and this, and kids and a husband, the whole day, it was very stressful. And I said something about, oh my gosh, I hope, I don't know if I could do this for the rest of my life. And she said, you just need to pick something and stick with it. Other people work 50 years at the same job. Why can't you? What? What? I mean, they don't give you a gold watch anymore, right? And so it's like, but why can't we? Why can't we continually to grow? I don't believe that people at 18 are going to be the same people they are at 68. And if they are, there's been a big problem.
right, right, you should want to change. I mean, change is not a bad thing. It should be that you change and evolve. And so if you change and evolve away from the career that you're in now, I mean, I personally have been around people who've shifted careers midway, and they were fine, and they were still able to retire. And still, my dad, he was a medical salesperson and decided he wanted to go into nursing. And so when he was 40, he did. He went back to school and he went into nursing, and he did that for, I guess 20 years. And then he was still able to retire, because he had his pension from his first job and the nursing. And so he was okay. Financially, he was okay. And my mom did the same thing when I was in high school. She went back and got her teaching degree, and she became a teacher. She was able to retire 7 years ago now. And she's okay financially too. It's like, you'll be okay. Everything will be okay. Everything's figure outable, but it's not okay to just stay stuck. That's where I just think, don't stay stuck where you are unhappy. Take a risk, put yourself out there, because you deserve to be the happiest person you can be.
And that's exactly what happened to me when I was on that flight, going from Chicago back home after this business trip. And I didn't realize how, and people think unhappy, you're laying in bed, you're crying, you're depressed. I was fine. I liked my friends, I liked my life, but I was just kind of unhappy in my career and what it meant, because I had been on the treadmill of the kid and making money and saving for retirement, saving for college. I mean, the whole thing about you should be saving all this money every month for college. Well, I just finished with it, okay, and it's twice as expensive as we thought, but we muddled through and we did it and they did it and we're good, okay? So all 10, 15 years ago, I was petrified that we weren't saving that $1,000 a month. You need to say we couldn't do that. But you know what? Our kids made it through college with no debt, and we made it through with no debt too. I think sometimes, and I'm not a big manifestation person per se. I think manifestation is really setting kind of goals, but I do say that I kind of felt like you said, it will all work out. It will all work out, and that's a mantra that you have to keep telling yourself sometimes. And I
Yeah.
think it's really hard for women. Well, I've got to control everything.
Yeah, it is hard. And I always say that mantra is, everything always works out perfectly for me. And it does. Anytime I've ever doubted, when I just lean back and trust and learn to trust, which is the hardest part. But when you do that, you realize all things come together. It really, really, truly does.
Yep. And so that's what the whole thing with Beyond the Nest, that's what it grew into. And the reason we named it Beyond the Nest is it wasn't just women with empty nesters. It was you thinking outside. Everyone's home is their nest, or their life is their little nest. And we wanted people to think beyond the nest. And it's the weird, this is kind of a fun story. We're going, all of our attendees will have they'll get their book in the mail, and they will also get their travel stuff. Like, when you go to a hotel or whatever, there's all the cute little soap bottles and everything. Well, we're trying to be a little bit more sustainable. So what we did is we are sending them a pack with reusable bottles that are, of course, branded. But I found this artist that makes the little kind of like your toiletry kit that you take with you when you travel. And she makes pen and ink drawings, and then she makes these travel kits with these pen and ink drawings that are kind of like basically put on them. I don't know how she does it, from recycled like clothing and everything like that. So there's this complete sustainable, and they all have a nest on them. I
Oh,
loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, instead of having it like a logo or whatever, they all have this beautiful little nest with 3 beautiful little eggs in it.
oh,
So I was like, oh, I found it. It was like, at her shop, and she does these watercolors. So it was perfect.
that's awesome. See, everything synchronous,
Works out.
everything lines up. The universe is amazing like that. I love that. So if I have any listeners out there who are interested in maybe booking on one of the tours or just finding out some more information about that, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, you can visit our website. It is www.beyondthenest.org. So beyondthenest.org. Sometimes people are like, wait a minute, I did Beyond the Nest and it was like this childcare place in Rochester, New York. Nope, that's not us. It is beyondthenest.org. And on the website is all about the trips, where we're going, the cost, everything. We still have a few spaces left for our San Miguel de Allende. We, just to let you know, we have everyone that is working on the trip is vaccinated. San Miguel, I've been twice. It's very, very safe. They have a very high level of their citizens having vaccinations for COVID. And we are going to have rapid tests for anyone that comes in and leaves. So I feel like we're going to be in our own little bubble of COVID safety for your guests. If they sign up and want to come on our trips, the first one is San Miguel. The second one this year is in Paros, Greece, and that's in mid-September. And the third one is in Malta, and that's late October to the first week in November. We're offering a 15% discount when they sign up. And all they have to do is put the name of your podcast and say, hey, I heard you on the podcast.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for giving them a discount. That's amazing. And I love that you guys are also taking safety precautions. So that's But you're a nurse, so you
Yes. I was very adamant that, I really think it's important because now everyone can avail themselves. I understand some people don't want to, but I want to make sure that all of our guests feel safe and that they feel that they can participate fully in a vaccinated environment.
I love that. Well, I love that you do this, and I am super excited. And I hope that some of our listeners will take advantage of that because I think it's an amazing and great opportunity. And I highly encourage travel, travel, travel as much as you can. I always like to ask our guests before we leave just to impart a little bit of wisdom to our listeners. So, if there's any piece of advice that you would have for our listeners, what would that be?
I would say, to keep it short and sweet, don't be a perfectionist. See the beauty in the good enough and realize that perfection, no one is perfect. There's nothing that's perfect. You, good enough works, and that you don't have to keep striving for perfection.
I love that. I love that very much. We talk about that all the time. Perfection is really just another form of fear that's keeping you stuck from moving forward. So, love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much for this conversation. It was so much fun and so interesting. And I am going to go check out your website too because I love traveling. I love self development. I think it's an amazing thing. So, I can't wait to go see what it's all about and the beautiful places that you go. Those villas sound amazing.
Yes, and we would love for you to come and enjoy it, and even maybe come and be a guest director one time, and
I would
and
love that.
impart your information to
That would
people.
be so much fun. I love that. So we'll have to stay in touch because
Yes.
I've said one of my things that I have on my vision board is for in the future to lead retreats, to help women and help people really dive into the best part of themselves and figuring out that you're enough. You said it. You're enough. And more people need to realize they are enough, they have enough, and just go with that. So I love, love, love your mission. I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I really had a great time.
Awesome. And I want to thank you guys for being with us today and enjoying this conversation. As always, if you like this podcast, please subscribe. Please leave a positive review from wherever you're listening. And the greatest compliment you can pay me is to share my podcast with anyone you think might benefit. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media. I go live Mondays on Facebook at 6:30 Central, where I do a free card reading. If you show up for the live, I'll pull a card especially for you. And if you want to work with me, you can go to my website, melissaoatman.com. There you'll see all the services I offer. And if you want to work with me and you're not sure what you want or need, you can book a free discovery call. We'll jump on a call for 15 minutes and just talk about what I can do for you and how I can best serve you. I hope that, as always, you have a beautiful day from wherever you're listening. I am sending you so much love and light, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.